Good day, dear students. In the previous class, you have seen the wisdom of Francis Bacon. In the essay of studies, he speaks of certain things which are really necessary for our life and how to use studies effectively. To this purpose, he explains how it could be done and how certain types of uh, things or certain types of behaving or certain qualities are required and how it could be used. This much we have seen in the previous class, and the categories to which he puts people and also the studies is indeed remarkable. In today's class, we'll start with the next topic or the next sentence of the essay because each sentence is worth a lot of explanation. Shall we? Bacon says some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. You think that you have heard of this. I'm sure that you have definitely heard of this sentence because this is a much quoted sentence, and maybe we have heard the sentence, but we were not sure as to the author of the sentence. Now you are face to face with this author. The author is none other than Francis Bacon. He says some books are to be tasted and others are to be swallowed and few others to be chewed and digested. The sentence construction as well as what he had put into that sentence is indeed remarkable. He says some books are to be tasted. Some books are to be tasted in the sense that you just taste a little bit of things that are there. In the sense that, again, that it is not to be taken in large quantity. It is in that sense he uses the word tasted. Other books are to be swallowed, means instead of taking a lot of time to read certain books, you just skip or turn over the pages, you just swallow it. And there are some few to be chewed and digested. These are certain types of books which gives you a lot of wisdom, and these you have to take time like you chew a piece or a morsel of food, and it is to be digested by taking time. This is the manner in which this third type of books are to be taken. They are to be chewed and digested. So here you find the wisdom of Francis Bacon. So he gives an explanation for tasted, swallowed, chewed, and digested. All these are words that are connected with food and eating. And it is that which is most familiar to all of us. Maybe it is in that sense he uses these words and also the analogy of eating food. So he gives the explanation that is, some books are to be read only in parts, others to be read but not curiously, some few to be read wholly and with diligence and attention. This is the explanation of the sentence that is given above. That is, some books are to be tasted, which means some books are to be read only in parts, means little here and there, not wholly. This is what is expected from certain books because maybe they are not that deep or they do not deal with things which are of great importance. It is just to be tasted or just to be turn over the pages and just to be tasted. The others to be read, but not curiously. Means you can read it, but it is like swallowing food. You swallow food, but you may not be tasting that food properly. So these types of books are to be read, but you are not to spend too much time on it or on reading that particular book. And that is why he says, but not curiously. And again, the third variety, some few to be chewed and digested. This third variety of books are to be read wholly and with diligence and attention. Dear students, this is how certain books are to be read. He says, chewed and digested. The explanation for this is that he wants us to read such types of books wholly, and that too with diligence and attention. With great care and attention, you are to read certain types of books. And when you read these books, you will be getting a lot in the sense that each sentence will have to be understood properly and with the care and attention, its meaning to be taken in the right sense. So, do you have an example for this? The first, that which comes to my mind is Francis Bacon's essay itself, that is, of studies. You are taking time, care, and attention to read through it and also get the proper stuff from it. And this is exactly what he meant by the third part of the sentence, some few to be chewed and digested. Some books are to be read with a diligence and attention, with care and with a lot of attention. Again, he says, some books also may be read by deputy and extracts made of them by others, but that would be only in the less important arguments and the meaner sort of books. Else, distilled books are like common distilled waters, flashy things. So he has some other books also. There is a variety of books, and people have even the if you take the Chandray, you have poem, novel, poetry, drama, and essays, and so on. Even in those days, prose was not that much in existence. You find a lot of tracts and pamphlets, and at the same time, certain essays also. And in Latin, all these varieties were in existence. So he was familiar with those types of books. So he says some books also may be read by deputy, means with the help of others. Like, for example, you are reading the essay of Francis Bacon of Studies with the help of a teacher, right? So, in a way, these books, serious types of books, may be read by deputy and extracts made of them by others. Extracts means the essence is to be made by others. So, you have the proper type of books which should be read by the help of someone or even a deputy, and the essence or the facts are to be made by them, made of them by others. So this is how certain books are to be read, but that would be only in the less important arguments and the meaner sort of books, that is in the less important argument in the sense it is not the argument that we have, it is not the meaning that we have for argument, it is in the less important argument, less important sense, and the meaner sort of books, books which refuse to concede meaning its meaning at one reading to the readers. You need to read it twice or thrice in order to get the proper meaning of the words of those books. And these books are read by men who had their education, higher education, and they delve through these or they delve into these books and get the essence from these books. And they also get the help of or the assistance of the notes of made of that books. Else, distilled books are like common distilled waters, flashy things. Distilled books, in the sense here, usually distill has got a totally different meaning in science. But maybe he uses the term in order to speak of books which has a lot of notes prepared, and it is like common distilled waters, flashy things, but at the same time, which has got nothing into it. So it is just a type of diluted type of water, diluted type of things, and there is nothing really remarkable about it. It is like common distilled waters. They are flashy things, but at the same time, they do not signify anything. So these types of books are also mentioned by Francis Bacon. Again, you come across another saying which you have heard a lot of times in your life, and you have no idea who the author is. It is that kind of a quotation. He says, "Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. And therefore, if a man write little, he had need have a great memory. If he confer little, he had need have a present wit. And if he read little, he had need have much cunning to seem to know that he doth not." What a sentence. You have heard the first part of the sentence, because the rest is not often used in quotation. And the quotation reads almost like this: "Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man." This quotation most often comes when you have the reading week. We just celebrated the reading week, and this is one quotation that is often there on the walls. And without knowing the author, we go through that because it is very apt. And so you find this really sensible enough advice. And Francis Bacon is the author of so many quotations like this. He says, "Reading maketh a full man." Well, full man means someone who is really full of the knowledge, and this is achieved through reading. Conference a ready man. So, more than a full man, a ready man is the next option. So you need to confer with other people and get their responses and amass the knowledge thus gleaned with you. So you will be a person who is ready to answer any question. And again, he says, "Writing an exact man." So a full man, a ready man, and an exact man. To be an exact man, you have to start writing. When you start writing, and maybe you experiment with a lot, you cut off a lot of sentences, certain words, rephrase your sentences, and make it exact so that the persons who read your writing will understand whatever it is conveyed, and there is a beginning, middle, and end to your writing. So, only by writing you can achieve this exactness. And no wonder Bacon says, "Reading maketh a full man." You are so full of knowledge. Conference, by talking to others, you use the knowledge you got by reading and by meeting people, you are now ready to embark upon a work or whatever it is that is at hand. But when you start writing, if you are a writer, you will choose your words correctly, appropriately, and convey your ideas to your readers in a proper manner. And will be extremely careful with that. And that will make you an exact man. And again he continues, and therefore, if a man write little, he had need have a great memory. So, if you are embarking on the voyage of writing or being a writer, you need to have a great memory. You have to read a lot of books and you have to remember what you have read and bring that to your writing in order to make it all the more better. If he confer little, he had need have a present wit. Means if he really wants to confer little, if he really want to talk to other people, he need have a present wit. Means all his senses should be alert and he should be ready to answer quickly. And it is that which he means by confer little. And if he read little, he had need have much cunning to seem to know that he doth not. He had need have much cunning. That is, if he read little, there are people who reads very little, and such people had need have much cunning. They should be quite aware of the world around them, and as such, they should be able to speak or even behave towards them. To seem to know that he doth not means that he had not read much. That is, in a way, to show not to show your ignorance. You need to have much cunning, and only then, only with that cunning, you can hide your ignorance. And if he read little, can be translated to your ignorance. Isn't it not so? Just read this line once again, this sentence. See the way the sentence is constructed, because there is a semicolon, again semicolon, semicolon, colon, then colon, and there is a comma, then again commas, semicolon, and it goes like that. Totally parenthetical sentence. And so you find a lengthy sentence here which is filled with a lot of wit. And so he says, if you are ignorant, do not convey that you are ignorant to your colleagues or to the people with whom you come to meet. And so, with much cunning, you can hide your ignorance because you have not read anything, because you have read very little. So, it is as if without reading, you will not be able to understand, you will not be able to have much knowledge, and you will be regarded as an ignorant person who has got cunning to hide that ignorance. Okay. Then he says, histories make men wise, poets witty, the mathematics subtle, natural philosophy deep, moral grave, logic and rhetoric able to content. So here is something more. Histories make men wise. People who learn history, it makes men wise. Means people who learn history learn wisdom from the experiences of the foreigners and of those people whose life is recorded in history. And if you are a poet, you have ready wits about you, because poets will have to write poems in short lines, and you have to compose it in such a manner that you have to have all your wits with you. What about mathematics, science? Mathematics makes you subtle. That is the quality of mathematics, subtlety and precision. So, subtle is a quality that you associate with people who had learned mathematics. Or we can rephrase it, people who had studied mathematics become very subtle in their dealing with other people. Again, he says natural philosophy makes people deep. Natural philosophy really make people deep. That is, they are not shallow people. They are people who has a lot of knowledge, and they keep that knowledge very well with them. And you have the surface as still as anything, because the surface may be still, but there is a lot of depth beneath that stillness. So again, he continues, moral studies makes people grave, means very serious, means people who learn about morals and who gives importance to morals, they appear to be very grave. Logic and rhetoric able to content. Logic means reasoning. Rhetoric, again, is the way to speak. All this will make a person to quite content. And this content, this is something that people who had learned logic and rhetoric will be able to achieve through their lifetime. Then there is Abund Studia in More. Studies pass into the character. Whatever that you have studied will shape your character. This is why you find that Francis Bacon was not able to withhold his Latin from his writing. And so, whatever that he studies will pass into his character, and it is being used in his writing. In a way, he says the subject that you have learned will shape your character to a certain extent. Maybe not absolutely, but even then, to a great extent, you will be shaped by the subject that you have studied. So, dear students, you are studying literature, and your character will be shaped by 3 years of the study of literature. And what will be the outcome? Let's wait and see. Okay. Nay, there is no stand or impediment in the wit, but may be wrought out by fit studies, like as diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises. Again, he begins the sentence with a negative. Nay. Nay means no. There is no stand or impediment, means obstacle in the wit, but may be wrought out by fit studies. Means there is nothing that can be cured by studies. So you feel that people without wit will not be able to be cured, and you feel that there are people who are quite dull and it is quite useless to teach them. It is not so, because he says there is a cure that and it may be wrought out by fit studies. That cure will be may be wrought out, means it could be brought in by fit studies, means studies that are appropriate to the person or to the lack that he shows in his life, like as diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises, like the diseases of the body may have appropriate exercises. I'm not speaking about physiotherapy, I am speaking about what Francis Bacon says here about the appropriate exercises and the diseases of the body. So let's see what the diseases are and what the appropriate exercises which is recommended by Francis Bacon. I'm sure that you are all eager for that. So let's see what he says. Bowling is good for the stones and reins, shooting for the lungs and breast, gentle walking for the stomach, riding for the head and the leg. So, if a man's wit be wandering, let him study the mathematics. For in demonstrations, if his wit be called away never so little, he must begin again. If his wit be not apt to distinguish or find differences, let him study the schoolmen, for they are simnisectors. If he be not apt to beat over matters, and call upon one thing to prove and illustrate another, let him study lawyers' cases. So every defect of the mind may have special receipt. So this is just one sentence. One, no, not one, two sentences. One sentence comes up to simony sectors. Even there also you find a lengthy sentence. And what is he speaking about? He says that bowling is good for the stones and brains, the body, which has got a lot of parts, and certain parts of the body needs bowling, and this will be good for those parts. And he continues saying that shooting is good for lungs and breast. So the way the person shoots, the way he takes upon him the gun, everything is in a way strengthens his lungs and breast. Gentle walking is good for stomach. Not heavy or quick walking, but gentle walking, which is good for stomach. And riding for the head. Riding horses is indeed good for the head. And the like means he continues saying that there are other exercises which are appropriate for the different parts of the body, or to strengthen the body or the different parts of the body. And I'm sure that you are familiar with all these, because some of you may be going for cycling, and you know what that exercise good does for your body. And some others will be maybe using the swing or skipping ropes. All these are there, and you know that it is good for your general health or to keep yourself fit. In the same manner, these are the different exercises which are really good for the body. So why is Francis Bacon speaking about the body and the exercises? He says there is a reason. If there is a fault in the makeup of a person, it can be remedied by certain types of studies. And this is why he had brought in the analogy of the exercises. So, if a man's wits be wandering, let him study the mathematics. Earlier also there was a reference to mathematics, and it is wits that he speaks of. And so he says, if the man's wits be wandering wits means if you can't really concentrate, then let him study mathematics. Of all things, mathematics. Those who can't keep their concentration really well, that concentration can be brought in by studying mathematics. That wandering wit can be brought into real wit by studying mathematics. For in demonstrations, if his wit be called away never so little, he must begin again, because by when you do a sum or a problem, naturally if you are not really concentrating, it will go wrong. You'll have to do it once again and begin again. So naturally, after doing it 3 or 4 times, he'll be giving his full concentration to what he is doing, and mathematics problem will be solved. So what he says is really true. So if you have wandering wits, if you do not have proper concentrating power, then better study mathematics. If his wit be not apt to distinguish or find differences, let him study schoolmen. So, schoolmen is not exactly people from the school, but it refers to the university. So, he says that if a person's wit be not apt to distinguish or find differences in the attitude of the people, differences in certain things, and if he just cannot distinguish between these differences, then let him study in the university. The university education will help him to distinguish or find differences, and that is very good for such people. because the university men or the school men are semnisectors. Semnisectors I have put in colors, and it is also written in italics by Bacon himself. And there is a reference that schoolmen are semnisectors. What is simni? Simni is cumin seed, which you use in cooking. Means I hope you know what is simni or cumin is. And cumin sectors actually means people who split the hair. You know how thin a hair is. People who split hairs means people who are very particular about the things is actually they insist on it. Such people are what we call as hair splitters. Here, semnisectors means people who remove the skin of cumin. Cumin is a very thin seed, and you can see how thin it is. To remove its skin means it is almost impossible, because it takes a lot of time, and it is not something that is done usually. And this is why these people are called hair splitters, means people who spend a lot of time on little things like this, like removing the skin of cumin. So he uses the term semnisectors exactly to denote the schoolmen. And you find that when they do that, they will know how to distinguish or find differences. That kind of study they have to do in the universities. So you can imagine how tough university education was at that time. And they have to be very particular also with each and every word or sentence and whatever it is that they are learning. So this terms semnisectors is important with Francis Bacon's essay of studies. Again, he continues, if he be not apt to beat over matters and call upon one thing to prove and illustrate another, let him study lawyers' cases. That is, if a man is not apt to beat over matters and call upon one thing to prove and illustrate another, let him study lawyers' cases. That is, he is speaking about a man who is not apt to beat over the matters. He is not going to speak or give an explanation, but he is calling upon one thing to prove and illustrate another thing, which means that he has got a capacity to connect one and the other. It means he is really, or he will be really good being a lawyer or taking up lawyers' cases. So you find the type of attitude that you need or your nature and understand whatever it is that suits your nature. Sometimes you like certain things and naturally you prefer certain things, but your aptitude will be in certain other areas. So understand yourself and the area in which you excel yourself, and that is what will help you to choose the subject for your study. And by doing that, you will be improving yourself or pruning yourself like the natural plants and which are to be pruned, and by pruning which will yield a great deal later on. So people who study lawyers cases are people who do not beat over matters but call upon one thing to prove and illustrate another. So every defect of the mind may have special receipt. So every defect of the mind, he speaks of it as defect. Defect in the sense weakness of the mind may have special receipt. So this special receipt here refers to the special subject which is actually needed in order to correct that defect of your mind, and it is that Francis Bacon recommends through the essay. So, understand the defect of the mind and then choose the subject, and it will, in a way, modify that defect and make you a perfect person. So, this is the advice or the bits of wisdom that Bacon imparts through his essay of studies. It's a very short essay, but as you can see that the sentences are complex and these sentences need a lot of explanation. And when you go through this explanation, we can understand that he had taken the wits from the outside world and had put everything into this essay form, very short essay form, so that you can by heart it and learn it and use it in your life, because this is worth using in your or copying in your life. This is the manner in which Francis Bacon writes essays. And as he says, you need a lot of research, you need to read a lot of books. Remember them if you are going to be a writer. Bacon really wanted to be a writer, and he had used the books that he had read, and from there he had gleaned or taken knowledge, and that knowledge he had imparted through these writings. So, as a writer, as an essayist, you can find the qualities of Francis Bacon, and this is just a sample essay that you have here. If you are interested, you can read other essays by Francis Bacon, and I can really recommend an essay of travels. And this is something that you can do because he speaks a lot about travel and how it enlarges the horizon of your knowledge, and travel helps you a lot, and how it helps he speaks of in that particular essay. And since you are all people who are really interested in traveling, I think you will really enjoy reading that essay. So after reading through of studies, you can make notes on that and see if your explanation, you can really do the explanation of those sentences that Bacon has given here. Again, speaking of his style of writing, you will notice that he uses comma, semicolon, and again full stop, and full stop naturally to the end of a sentence. But in between, he puts in a lot of comma and semicolon in order to pause and give importance to the next part of the sentence. And that is the style of his writing. And this is remarkable because he is able to put in a lot in just one sentence. Instead of using so many sentences, he puts in all his wisdom into just one sentence. So, if you can really by heart that one sentence of Bacon, we can say that you can really dilute it and really make it to more than 2 or 3 pages. That kind of explanation is needed for just one sentence. So, this is the type of concentrated writing that Bacon has to his credit. So, when you learn about Francis Bacon, his style of writing, his knowledge, his research, everything can be seen in this essay. So, students, go through it once again and try to go through the. I hope by now you have got your books and the notes that are at the beginning or the end of the essay, and also some of the questions. I'm sure that questions will really sharpen your wit.